Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome back to our Teal Talk Tuesdays. It's about to be 2, so I'm going to just wait a couple more seconds to see if anybody joins us. Today we're going to be talking about LGBTQ plus survivors of sexual violence. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Patricia Patones. I'm one of the Education and Outreach Specialists at SARC, the Sexual Assault Resource Center, and we are providing still our 24/7 crisis hotline, as well as virtual counseling and virtual education and outreach. Our mission is to end the cycle of violence through advocacy, empowerment, and education, regardless of sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or legal status. I like to tell everybody sexual assault and sexual violence does not discriminate, and neither do we. Let's go ahead and get started. In terms of sexual violence, it affects every demographic and every community, including the LGBTQ plus community. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals experience sexual violence at similar rates or higher rates than straight people. The National Coalition of Anti-Violence Projects estimates that nearly 1 in 10 LGBTQ plus survivors of intimate partner violence has experienced some type of sexual assault from those partners. And studies also suggest that around half of transgender people and bisexual women will experience sexual violence at some point in their lifetimes. So as a community, the LGBTQ plus people or individuals face higher rates of poverty. They face higher rates of stigma and marginalization, which puts them at a greater risk for sexual assault. They also face higher rates of hate-motivated violence, which can often take the form of sexual assault. And also society also hypersexualizes LGBTQ plus people and stigmatizes their relationships that can lead to intimate partner violence that stems from that internalized homophobia and shame. So as a community, we rarely talk about how sexual violence affects us or what our community's unique needs are when it comes to preventing sexual assault and supporting and caring for those survivors of sexual violence, especially in the LGBTQ plus community. According to the CDC study on National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, they found about 44% of lesbians and 61% of bisexual women experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner compared to 35% of straight women. And also 26% of gay men and 37% of bisexual men experience rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner compared to 29% of straight men. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit more of these statistics as well. 46% of bisexual women have been raped compared to 17% of straight women, and 13% of those women are lesbians have been raped as well, 13% compared to the 17% of straight women. In addition to 40% of gay men and 47% of bisexual men have experienced sexual violence other than rape, compared to 21% of straight men. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of those statistics and those percentages compared to the straight population. So within the LGBTQ plus community, transgender people and bisexual women face the most alarming rates of sexual violence. And a lot of those statistics don't even show, there's still many underreported or not reported cases at all. So among both of these population, that sexual violence is very, very prevalent. So for LGBTQ plus survivors of sexual assault, their identities and the discrimination they face surrounding those identities often make them hesitant to seek help from police, to seek help from hospitals, shelters, or rape crisis centers, because those very resources, they are afraid of that discrimination, and those are the very resources that are supposed to help them. Also, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of some common reactions that we get from LGBTQ plus survivors. And so they face many of the same emotions and challenges as other survivors, but they encounter those additional hurdles. So some of these common reactions is, wanting to be believed, not feeling believed, or worrying that you won't be believed, or wondering if it was your fault, feeling that shame, that guilt, or like it's your fault. You may be going over the assault in your mind many times, trying to figure out if you did something wrong. And I want you to know it was not your fault. It's never your fault. And also just feeling alone. You may feel that you are the only person that has been through sexual assault, or you may worry that others will judge or misunderstand you if you tell them. In addition, you may face disbelief that sexual violence, it affects the LGBTQ plus community. You may encounter people who mistakenly believe that this doesn't happen in this community, or this doesn't happen to LGBTQ plus people, which may make it harder to feel that your story is believed. And also, it can be hard to self-identify as a survivor. For many survivors, it can be difficult to identify and experience as sexual violence. It can be even harder to identify as a survivor if the assault does not fit your idea of what sexual violence looks like or who may be involved in that. So telling someone might be harder also if you are not out yet. So if you have not yet come out to your friends or your family about your gender identity or your sexual orientation, you may feel less able to disclose that sexual assault to them. And also, those who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, also may not find support in some faith communities. Many survivors find strength and healing in their faith, but may encounter difficulty finding the support that you deserve in your faith community when it does not affirm your sexual orientation or your gender identity. So, sometimes it's hard to know what to do when someone you care about tells you that they have experienced sexual violence. The reaction of the first person a survivor discloses to can affect if they choose to tell others or seek additional resources. So just remember to listen without judgment, acknowledge that this is very difficult for them of what they went through, and tell them that you care about them. So first things first, listen, just being there to listen. Many people in a crisis feel as if though no one understands them and that they are not taken seriously. So show them they matter by giving your undivided attention, actively listening. It is extremely hard for many survivors to disclose an assault, especially if they're not out yet. And by disclosing that, this would, have them come out at the same time. So, drop whatever you're doing and just being there for them and listening to them would, be a tremendous amount of help for somebody who is part of the LGBTQ plus community who has not come out yet. Another thing that you can do is validate their feelings. Avoid making overly positive statements like, it will get better, or trying to manage their emotions like, snap out of it, or you shouldn't feel so bad. Make statements like, I believe you, or that sounds like a really hard thing to go through. Thank you for sharing this with me. Things like those are the type of phrases that you want to go lean more towards. And also express your concern. Tell them in a direct way that you care about them by saying, I care about you, or I am here for you in whatever you need. And also using one important part of also being able to support an LGBTQ plus, I'm sorry about that, use inclusive language that affirms the survivor's gender identity and their sexual orientation, rather than, just assuming someone's gender identity or sexual orientation. Use that neutral language like partner or date instead of boyfriend or girlfriend. Try not to assume what someone's gender identity or preferred pronouns are. It's a better idea to let them tell you, or you can always ask them what they prefer. You can always use they instead of she or he if you are unsure. And also, whenever somebody does outcry to you or shares something so traumatic as an event as sexual assault, don't ask too many details about the assault. Even if you are curious about what happened and feel that you want to fully understand it, avoid asking for too many details or how the assault occurred. You don't want to re-traumatize that victim. If a survivor does choose to share those details with you, try your best to listen in a supportive and non-judgmental way. Some other supportive things to say to a survivor, in addition to, I believe you, or it took a lot of courage to tell me about this. Like I said before, it can be extremely difficult for survivors to come forward and share their stories. They may feel ashamed, concerned that they won't be believed, or worried that they will be blamed. Be careful not to interpret calmness as a sign that the event did not occur. Everyone responds to traumatic events differently. So the best thing you can do is to believe them, like I said. And always mention to them, it's not your fault, and you didn't do anything to deserve this. Survivors blame themselves, especially if they know the perpetrator personally or were under the influence of alcohol or drugs when the assault occurred. So they think because of that maybe it was their fault. But no, it is never their fault. Remind the survivor, maybe even more than once, that they are not to blame. You can also let them know you are not alone, and I care about you, and I'm here to listen or help in any way. Let the survivor know that you are there for them and willing to listen to their story if they are comfortable sharing it, and you do not judge them for what happened. Ask them if there are others in their life, that they also feel comfortable going to, and let them know that there is help, nationally. You can always go call our National Sexual Assault Hotline, as well as, figuring out your local resources. And here at SARC, we're local resources. Our 24/7 crisis hotline is always available at 979-731-1000, or you can always go check out our website in terms for those local resources. And additional resources that I wanted to talk to you guys about, there's the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs. Basically, it's a coalition of programs that document and advocate for victims of the LGBTQ plus community, as well as, anti-harassment, anti-violence, anti-domestic violence, sexual assault. So definitely go check that out. Their hotline is 212-714-1141. And also feel free to go check out the Trevor Project, and that is a help and suicide prevention hotline for LGBTQ plus youth. Their hotline is 866-488-7386, and that is the Trevor Project Crisis Hotline. And also there's the LGBT National Hotline. This call center refers over 15,000 resources across the country that help support the LGBTQ plus individuals, and that's the LGBT National Hotline. And also there's the Association for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Issues in Counseling. So that's basically a directory of LGBT-friendly mental health specialists across the United States. And also there is another coalition named FORGE, FORGE, that stands for Ourselves, Reworking Gender Expression. And this is home to the Transgender Sexual Violence Project, and it provides services and publishes research for transgender persons experiencing violence and their loved ones. But like I said, SARC, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, race, religion, or legal status, we welcome any and all individuals who have suffered from sexual violence, or their family members or their friends that have suffered from sexual violence. And like I said, we are still providing virtual counseling as well as virtual education and outreach. And our 24/7 crisis hotline is still available. So please go check that out. If you do need anybody to talk to, whatever resources, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, feel free to call our crisis hotline at 979-731-1000. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to this Teal Talk Tuesday of LGBTQ plus survivors of sexual violence. And next week we will have our other fellow education outreach specialist, Jennifer Locks, talk about preventing sexual violence. So be sure to tune in next Tuesday as well. Thank you guys so much, and you guys have a great rest of your day, great Tuesday, and all right, see you next Tuesday, guys.